Hey, Dr. Ray here, founder of the Learning Liaisons, and welcome. Welcome to our Wednesday evening math sessions featuring our math specialist and your math specialist, Amy Sink. In the next hour, Amy has put together a sample set of approximately 10 practice questions that run the gamut from kindergarten levels all the way through 12th grade high school math. Now, I know you are attending here, watching this, and you're like, well, I'm doing elementary in Texas, or I'm doing elementary in Praxis, or I'm doing high school math in Florida, or middle school math in Texas. And what's going on here, right? So we're doing these sessions to help you guys out and provide you with different ways to look at problems and to build that confidence. Because here at the Learning Liaisons, one of our major objectives is to clear up the testing confusion, give you the support you deserve in order to nail your exam and be done with it. So our focus is on math. Now, are we going to be just focusing on high school math the whole hour or elementary? No, we've got a mixture here. Now, Amy is going to go through a bunch of problems. You're going to have the opportunity to download those as a PDF. So when Amy starts, just pay attention to the screen. We're going to have a message there for you so you can download the PDF in case we don't get to all the problems or want to practice on your own. She's going to do her best to go across all different grade levels. If you have a question, you feel free to ask Amy your question as well. We're teachers here too, so we can multitask. Our job is to make sure that we give you what you need to be successful. But if you're like, dang it, I didn't have any questions this week, don't worry. We'll be here next Wednesday night as well. So bring those questions with you if you want, and you could ask Amy away. Because here at the Learning Liaisons, we pride ourselves in providing you guys the support you need to pass your exam. So whether you're our Florida teachers here with our FTCE exams, our national exam Praxis peeps, big shout out to you guys out there too, and especially our newcomers to the Learning Liaisons brand, TExES Prep. So whether you're elementary, middle school, and high school, we've got your back. So sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, get ready to learn some math, and stay tuned for the end because I'm going to jump back on to close this out. And I got a special surprise for you guys who really want to get the real deal prep and get everything you need to be successful and practice, clear up that confusion, and pass your certification exam on the next attempt. So, welcome to the Learning Liaisons community. Always remember, it's when you pass, not if you pass. So without further ado, let's turn it over to the reason why you're here, Amy. You with us, Amy? Let's get going.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Math Night. Like he said, my name is Amy Sink, and I'm so excited to be here with you tonight. We are full-blown into summer, so happy summer to everybody. We just had a huge storm here in Central Florida, tornadoes and everything, but we are safe and it's gone, so I'm thankful for that, partly because I'm glad we're safe and partly because I'm glad that we didn't lose internet. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. You'll notice on my screen that there's balloons and banners because it is my birthday week. So our question, I always ask a question. So in the comments section, let me know where you're from, what test you're prepping for, because that helps me guide our conversation. And do you guys celebrate birthdays big in your home or not so big? And do you do like gifts or experiences? In our home, birthdays are usually like gifts, and then Christmas is usually like an experience. So my birthday is not today, but it is on Tuesday, so it's before we meet again. So thank you, Joseph. Good to see you here. So like he said, please let me know in the comments if you have any questions at all. Please let me know in the comments if there's something that you want to see me go over in the upcoming weeks. I love to frame my questions around what you guys need. So if there's any topics that you're really struggling with, let me know in the comments and I'd be happy to add that. I did that this week. There's questions that people have specifically requested, and that is what we're going over today. Hey, Renee, you're from Central Florida too. Awesome. Elementary, awesome. Hey, Cheryl, nice to see you. Thank you, Mona. Houston, Texas. We are huge Cowboys fans in this house. So, Texas, my husband grew up in Texas. Hey, Laura, nice to see you too from South Carolina. So we've got elementary, high school, middle school. We've got everything in here today, which I love. So let's get started. All right, this problem is for everybody, really. So I like to have problems specifically for like my high school people, specifically for my elementary and pre-K people, but then most of the problems I try to make sure are good for everybody. So let's get started. After the first 35 games in a season, a professional baseball team has won 80% of their games. If there are 47 games left to play, what is the minimum number of remaining games the team must win to finish the season with a win percentage of at least 75%? Percents always trip people up. So let's break down what we've been given. We've been told that they've played 35 games already. And we've been told that they won 80% of those games. So what I'm going to do is figure out how many games they won. And I'm going to create like a little chart. So let's see if we can get through today, for those of you who have been with me for a while, let's see if we can get through today without my iPad disconnecting from this screen. Let's count that as a win. So they played so far 35 games. They've won so far how many? Their total number of games, I'm just literally writing all the information that I know that I could pull from this problem. It may not be relevant information, but if I can just spit all of this information onto my paper very quickly, it's going to take me less time to process the problem overall. Rather than me sitting here and reading the problem 700 times, if I can just spit out all the information I know about this problem, then I'm going to be able to process it a little faster. So they've played 35 games so far. We don't know how many they've won so far. Their total number of games are just going to be how many they've played and how many they have left to play, which is going to be 35 plus 47. And then the percent that they want to win is 75%. I'm going to change colors so that I can break that up in my brain. So let's figure out how many they've won. How do I figure out what 80% of 35 is? Well, when we think about keywords, which is not my favorite thing to talk about because I think that words can mean a lot of different things in math, but of most of the time means multiply. So I'm going to multiply 35 times 80%. I'm going to translate that percent into a decimal. Elementary people, you've got to know how to do that. So if I have 80% and I want to put that into a decimal, I'm going to take my decimal place and hop it 2 places to the left. 1, 2. So that gives me 0.80 for my percentage. Most people can get that. Where people get tripped up is if I said I want to make 125% of my salary next year, and I need to translate that into a decimal, it does not equal 0.125. We're going to hop the decimal 2 places to the left, and I get 1.25. Well, that makes sense because this is greater than 100%, and 100% is 1 whole. So I'm going to need my decimal to be greater than 1 whole. What does 0.125 actually equal? If I hop that decimal 2 places to the right to turn it into a percent, it turns into 12.5%. Now, that was a total rabbit trail, but definitely something we need to know how to do. So let's go back to 35 times 0.8. I'm going to go ahead and use my handy dandy calculator and do 35 times 0.8. Not everybody gets a calculator. You definitely have to check with your blueprint or your study guide to see if you get one. 35 times 0.8 is 28. So they've won 28 games so far. You see why I did this in a table, because I know what that number represents. A lot of times we start to do math and we forget what that number actually means. So they've won 28 games so far. Let's figure out how many total games they're going to play. 35 plus 47 equals 82. They need to play 82 games. Not they need to. They are going to play 82 games, not they need to. What they need to do is win 75%. How do I figure out what 75% of 82 is? Multiply it. So now I'm going to take 82 times 0.75 to figure out number of games they need to win at end of season. 82 times 0.75 is 61.5. Let's talk about what that number represents. That's the number of games they need to win at the end of the season to have a win percentage of at least 75%. Can they win a half of a game? No, we can't win half of a game. So how many games do they have to win to have at least 75%? They need to win 62 games. Now, 0.5 rounds us up. I want you to think about this. What if we had gotten 61.2? How many games would they need to win to have a win percentage of at least 75%? They would still need to win 62 games. Why? Because I can't round down, because then that'll take my percentage down just the slightest. And they have to have at least 75%, which means I have to round up no matter what that decimal is. If it said to have a win percentage or to have a lose percentage of no more than, then we would round very differently. But because it's at least, we're always going to round up. I hope that makes sense. So they have to win 62 games. Now, that's not my answer. And in fact, that should be one of the answer choices for this to be, then to trick us. How am I going to figure out how many games they still need to win? What is the minimum number of remaining games they have to win? Well, the remaining games is 47. So I need to figure out how many they need to win left out of that 47. They've won 28 so far. So I'm going to do 62 minus 28 to figure out how many more they need to win. 62 minus 28 equals 34. You do notice that they have 33, though, just in case you rounded that number down. All right, let's keep going. Like I said, any questions on what I'm doing, please let me know in the comments. All right, last week, someone specifically asked me to go over sine, cosine, tangent, and Pythagorean theorem. So you best believe that I went ahead and did a problem with sine, cosine, tangent, and Pythagorean theorem all in one. Now, I'll tell you why I erased those answer choices in a minute. So, what is tangent of theta in the right triangle below? And we see our triangle here. Whoa. We see our triangle here. They told us it's a right triangle, which means we can assume that this is our right angle. They gave us theta right here. And so now we need to figure out what tangent of theta is. Now, I covered up the answer choices because I didn't want you to use them to solve this, which is super rare. I always tell you, use your answer choices to help you. But in this case, I want to show you how the Pythagorean theorem relates to this problem, and then I'll show you how to use the answer choices. So, tangent of theta, we know tangent is opposite over adjacent. Cheryl and Milagros, I see your questions. I'll come right back to them. So, tangent is opposite over adjacent. How do I know that? Because of my trig rules. So, ka, toa. It's just a fun little rhyme for us to remember what each trig identity identity matches with. So sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine equals adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent equals opposite over adjacent. This is for my high school people, 100%. So if you're in elementary, a GK, like you need to know what a right triangle is. Some of you need to know Pythagorean theorem, but you don't need to know the trig ratios. So sine, opposite over hypotenuse, cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse, tangent, opposite over adjacent. This is theta. This is always going to be hypotenuse. Why? Because hypotenuse is always across from the 90-degree angle. Then, depending on where theta is going to determine what your opposite and your adjacent is. So for this theta, opposite equals 9, and adjacent is going to be this one. Now, if I had my answer choices unhidden, I would look at my answer choices and see which one has 9 on the top. Then I would go ahead and do Pythagorean theorem to find that missing side, because I know that a Pythagorean theorem, Pythag theorem, tells me a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A squared plus b squared equals c squared, where a and b are your legs and c is always your hypotenuse, which is the longest side, which is the side across from that right angle. So I can do 9 squared plus b squared equals 15 squared, because a, b. Does it matter if you did a, b, or if you did a, b? No, it doesn't matter at all. As long as you do a and b together, because addition is commutative. So 9 squared is 81 plus b squared equals 225. B squared equals 225 minus 81, which is 144. And then to undo that square, I'm going to square root both sides. So B equals 12. So this side equals 12, which tells me opposite is 9, adjacent is 12. So my answer is D. Now, I wanted to show you that process because not always will you be able to use your answer choices to help you. However, in this case, answer choices are super helpful. They did not give us 12, but we know that tangent of theta equals opposite, which is 9, over adjacent. Well, I know that 9 has to be on the top of my fraction, which immediately eliminates B and C, because B is hypotenuse over opposite, which isn't even a trig thing. Or it's not sine, cosine, and tangent. It would be inverse of sine or cosine or tangent, but it would not be sine, cosine, or tangent. C is 12, and we didn't know at the time that that side was 12, but that's certainly not opposite. So I know it has to be A or D. Then I know it's opposite over adjacent, and this is opposite over hypotenuse, and this side cannot be equal to this side if this is a right triangle, because the hypotenuse can never be equal to one of the other sides. The legs can be equal to each other, but the hypotenuse cannot be equal to them. So D is my answer without doing any math. All right. So Cheryl, I'm going to answer your question. So they need to win 62 games in the rest of the games and then find the difference between what they have already won and the 62. 62 is how many games they have to win total to get a winning percentage of at least 75. I took my 35 and my 47 and I added those together to find their total games. Then I multiplied that by 75% just to figure out how many games they needed to win in that entire season. Then I subtracted that from what they've won so far. Where do I get the 125% from? That was totally just an example because I was talking about percentages and how to convert them to decimals. is it 35 times 80 mean 28? 35 times 80 is not 28. 35 times 8/10 or 0.8 is 28. 35 times 80 is 2,800. All right, let's keep going. All right, like I said, y'all, I'm more than happy to answer any questions you have. This session is for you. So I want to make sure you understand everything. I love that Cheryl and Milagros asked me questions while I was solving those problems. All right, which of the following is not a zero of the function below? F of x equals x cubed plus 3x minus 4. That should say 3x squared. Typo. Minus 4x minus 12. I'm going to do that in pink, or in black, I mean. X cubed plus 3x squared minus 4x minus 12. All right, there's two different ways we can solve this problem. We can solve, now, we cannot factor it our normal factoring way. This is for my high school people and a little bit into middle school, depending on where middle school ends. So we cannot factor it like a normal factoring problem because we can only do that with squared or fourth problems. There is no GCF that I can pull out of this. There's nothing that all of these share that I can pull out. So there goes that idea. So I can factor a larger polynomial by grouping. Or I can use synthetic division. This is a problem someone specifically asked for, but it's a great problem. All right, so to factor by grouping, how do we solve a problem factoring by grouping? So I literally am going to group two things together, group two more things together, and do a GCF of those things. So naturally, these two things are going to go together, and naturally, these two things are going to go together. What is the GCF of this little section? What does x cubed and 3x squared have in common? They both have x squareds. So I'm going to factor out an x squared, and I'm left with x plus 3. How did I get that? Because I just divided an x squared out of each term. If I were to multiply this back through, I would get x cubed plus 3x squared. Now I'm going to look and see what can I factor out of here. They both can be divided by 4, but I'm actually going to do a negative 4 because what I'm really trying to do is get this to match with the same thing over here. And so if I factor out a negative 4, what's going to happen is it's going to make that a positive 3. You'll see in a minute. So if I factor a negative 4 out, then this becomes a positive x because negative 4 times x is negative 4x. And then this becomes a positive 3. This is probably where most people make their errors because negative 4 times positive 3 is negative 12. That was my goal because I wanted this to equal this. Now, this is really a subtraction problem still. I have this whole thing being subtracted by this whole thing. So now what I can do is factor out a GCF. This and this are GCFs of each of these terms. So if I factor out an x plus 3, what am I left with? I'm left with x squared minus 4 equals 0. Now I can find my zeros. All I did was replace the f of x with 0 because I'm trying to find my zeros, which is where my graph crosses my x-axis. Set them both equal to 0. X plus 3 equals 0. X squared minus 4 equals 0. X equals negative 3. And x, this I can add the 4 to both sides. X squared equals 4, square root both sides. X equals positive and negative 2, because 2 times 2 is 4, and negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. So negative 3 is a 0. We're looking for the not. 2 and negative 2 are zeros. So 0 is the only non-zero. I see your question, Mona. I will absolutely add that. I'm actually going to take a picture of it right now so I don't forget and it doesn't get lost in the comments. I will add that to next week for sure. Now, I just factored that by grouping. I can also use synthetic division. I'm going to come back to that because I don't want to spend the entire session talking about something that not everybody can benefit from. If I have time at the end, I will show how to do synthetic division. If not, I will do this exact same problem next week using synthetic division because I want you to see how to do both. You're welcome, Cheryl. I'm glad that it helped. All right. Which of the following, oh, this is the synthetic division example that I was going to do, and I'm not going to do it right now. So we're just going to skip it. Again, if I have time, I'll come back to it. Mariah is 5 years younger than twice the age of her sister, Julie. If their combined age is 37 years, how old is Julie? Yes, you'll get the same answer, Cheryl. So this is excellent for everybody. Everybody needs to understand how words can translate into expressions and vice versa, how expressions can translate into words. So we know Mariah is 5 years younger than twice the age of her sister, Julie. That's a lot of words. We also know that their combined age is 37. If I had no clue where to start, I would sit here and say, well, I know that Mariah plus Julie equals 37. At least I can get something on my paper and make myself feel successful during a test that it can be very overwhelming. And I can also, if that's all I get and I'm like, nope, can't do it, and I skip it, at least my brain has started to process this problem. M plus J is 37. Now, how am I going to figure out what we're doing here? Well, I can use my answer choices, or I can do it algebraically. I'm going to show you how to do both. So M plus J equals 37. What do we know about Mariah? Mariah is M equals. Is 99% of the time means equals. Mariah is 5 years younger than. That does not mean 5 minus. That means something minus 5. We talk about this almost every single week because it is one of the most common mistakes I see people make. So 5 years younger than. Let me talk about this. If I said, what is 4 more than 8? What would you tell me? 12, obviously. Now, you could have done 4 plus 8, or you could have done 8 plus 4, and you'll get the same answer because addition is commutative. However, subtraction is not commutative. So if I said, what is 4 less than 8? You can't do 4 minus 8. 4 less than 8 is 4. But you did not do 4 minus 8 to get that, because if you did, you'd get a negative number. You did 8 minus 4 to get that number. So 4 less than 8 means something minus 4. Now, same thing happens with addition, but addition is commutative, so it doesn't matter. So 5 years younger than means something minus 5. What is she 5 years younger than? Twice the age of her sister. 2 times the age of her sister, Julie. Now, all I have to do is substitute this for M. So because these two things equal each other, I can do m plus j equals 37. And then I can replace the m with 2j minus 5 plus j equals 37. And now I can solve it. 2j plus j is 3j minus 5 equals 37. Add 5 to both sides. 3j equals 42. Divide both sides by 3. And we get j equals 14. Now, how would I use my answer choices to solve this problem? Because using answer choices is helpful. Well, glad you asked. I did not mean to do that. I meant to copy this. Okay. Lordy, I am struggling. Sorry. Copy this page, paste it. There we go. Okay, how would I use my answer choices? Well, we already decided that m plus j equals 37. M plus j equals 37. How would I use these answer choices? Well, if I know that their ages together have to equal 37, I'm going to figure out what the other person's age is going to be. So if I'm going to sit here and say these are Julie's ages, because it asked us how old is Julie, which means our answer choices are Julie, then I can figure out how old Mariah is by just doing some basic subtraction. 37 minus 14 equals 23. So Mariah is 23. I'm going to do this all the way down. 37 minus 18, 19. 37 minus 20, 17. 37 minus 32, 5. So Mariah is 5 years younger than twice the age of her sister. So now that I see all of this, I can think, okay, twice the age of Julie, 14 plus 14 is 28, and then she's 5 years younger. So I can play with these answer choices if the algebraic way doesn't make sense to me, or if I can't remember that. Why 0? I don't know where you're referencing. So if you can tell me what problem you're referencing, I can answer that question, but I don't know what problem you're referencing there. All right, let's do a geometry problem. A huge area people always struggle with, and I always get messages, can you please go over geometry problems? So here's a geometry problem. July is building a rectangular garden. She determined that the width of the garden is 2x minus 7, and the length of the garden is x plus 3. What is the perimeter of the garden? Anytime I have a geometry problem or any problem that I can possibly draw a picture, I'm going to draw a picture because it's going to help me make sense of this information. She's building a rectangular garden. Guess what I'm going to draw? You got it, a rectangle. So here's my rectangular garden. I just figured out that on this app that I'm using, if I draw something and then I hold my pencil down really hard, it does it so nice for me. How awesome is that? Learn something new every day. So she determined that the width is 2x minus 7 and the length is x plus 3. So I'm going to label that on my rectangle. 2x minus 7, x plus 3. Now, let's be honest. Does it matter if you put 2x minus 7 here or 2x minus 7 here or x plus 3? No, it doesn't matter because length times width will happen no matter in what order, and perimeter is addition. So it doesn't matter what order you do it in, especially since rectangles can be flipped. Now, what did they ask us for? They asked us for perimeter. Perimeter is the length around your shape. So if I'm looking for perimeter, I'm looking for the distance I would travel around my shape. I think of perimeter as fencing in a garden. Area is going to be how much grass I can put in that garden. So if I'm finding the perimeter, I'm doing 2x minus 7 plus x plus 3, and I'm not going to stop there. Plus, what is this? 2x minus 7 plus, what is this? X minus 3. So I'm going to do 2x minus 7 plus 2x minus 7 plus x plus 3 plus x plus 3 equals perimeter. And now I'm just going to simplify that. I'm going to add together the things that are alike. So my x's can go together, and then my constants can go together. So 2x plus 2x is 4x, 5x, 6x. And then negative 7 minus 7 is negative 14, plus 6 is negative 8. So that's my perimeter. Now, what if they asked you for area? Let's go ahead and solve that, because why not? We're sitting here on this problem, and I definitely want to show you how to do that. So if they asked us for area, what do we know? I'm going to make a little area box. They did not ask us for this. I'm rabbit trailing because you need to know it. What is area of a rectangle? Length times width. Area of a rectangle is length times width. So length is 2x minus 7. No, that's the width, but it doesn't matter. But I will reverse it just for kicks and giggles. Length is x plus 3. Width is 2x minus 7. So how do I solve that? How do I multiply that? FOIL. I'm going to multiply the first thing, and then I'm going to multiply the second thing. I'm going to use the distributive property to solve this. X times 2x is 2x squared. X times negative 7 is minus 7x. 3 times 2x is 6x. 3 times negative 7 is negative 21. 2x squared minus x minus 21. That would be your area. You notice that's an answer choice. They did that on purpose. All right, let's keep going. Pet Rescue for Life has cats and birds available for rescue. There are a total of 48 animals needing to be rescued. What is the maximum number of birds that need to be rescued if there are a total of 140 feet among the cats and the birds? All right, this is such a fun problem. So we know we have cats and birds for rescue. And we also know how many animals there are. We have cats and birds, and there's 48 animals needing to be rescued. So I'm going to say cats plus birds equals 48. Right? They told us there's 48 animals and there's only cats and birds. What is the maximum number of birds that need to be rescued if there are a total of 140 feet, meaning like feet, not feet like length, among the cats and the birds? So this is another problem where we can use our answer choices to help us. And the answer choices, that way is probably going to be a lot easier for most of you. For some of you, it's going to be easier to do a system of equations. And I'm going to show both because I just feel like the stretch of people we have in here tonight, it's going to benefit everybody to see both. You're welcome, Mona. I'm glad that you appreciated that. So I'm actually going to do answer choices first. So if they're asking what is the maximum number of birds, I'm going to call this birds because that's what we're solving for. So then if that, oh goodness, I apologize. Someone's at my front door and the dog is going to go absolutely berserk. If this is birds and I know a total of 48 animals has to be rescued, then I can find out how many cats there's going to be. So I can do 48 minus each of these. 48 minus 22, that would give us 26 cats. 48 minus 26, that would give us 22 cats. 48 minus 44, that would give us 4 cats. And wait a minute. If there are only 48 animals that need to be rescued, can there be 92 birds that need to be rescued? No. There's not even 92 animals that need to be rescued. So that answer is a silly answer, but people will choose it because they won't know what to do. So they'll just subtract these two numbers and call it a day just to try to answer the question. So this is not even an option. Now that I know that that's how many birds and cats I have, and I know that there's 140 feet, how many feet do birds have? Bird feet, cat feet, total feet. Cats have 4 feet, birds have 2 feet. So if I multiply how many birds, 22, times the number of feet each bird have, that would create 44 bird feet. And then if I multiply the number of cat feet by the number of feet they have, 26 times 4 equals 104. And if I add my bird feet and my cat feet together, I would get 144 feet total. That is not correct because I need 140 feet. So now I'm going to do the same thing here. 26 birds times 2 and 22 cats times 4. 26 times 2 equals 52. 22 times 4 is 88. And if I add 88 plus 52, I get 140. So there's my answer. Now, that's a lot of work, and it's a lot of tedious work, but it works to solve a problem like that. Let's talk about how to solve a system of equations without that lengthy process. Again, I show it to you because when you get stuck, you can use multiple ways to solve the problem. All right, so system of equations. Cats plus birds equals 48. Now I can also come up with another equation that equals 140 feet. What equals 140 feet? Well, 4 times C plus 2 times B. 4 cat feet per cat times the number of cats we have, plus 2 bird feet per bird times the number of birds we have. Now I can use substitution or elimination to solve. I'm going to use substitution because this is a really easy equation to manipulate. I'm going to subtract C from both sides. No, I'm going to subtract B from both sides. Subtract B from both sides. Does it matter which one you do? No, it does not matter. C equals 48 minus B. Now I can substitute this in for C because C literally equals that. So 4 times 48 minus B plus 2B equals 140. Now I'm just going to solve. I see your question, Mona. 4 times 48, 4 times negative B. 4 times 48 equals 192 minus 4B plus 2B equals 140. Negative 4B plus 2B is negative 2B equals 140. Subtract 192 from both sides. And I get negative 2B equals negative 52. Divide both sides by 2, negative 2, and I get B equals a positive 26. So I still get the same answer. Does that make sense? All right, Mona, here you go. I will go back to this problem so you can take a picture. It's an excellent thing to do. Take a picture of my work because then you always have it. All right, I'm going to keep going. All right, what is the greatest common factor of 36 and 18? This is an elementary problem for sure. Now, my middle school and high school people, you have to know factors because you have to be able to use that information to solve more complex problems. But this is definitely for my elementary people. I love that you've been taking a picture of my work. Then you can just scroll through it when you're, sitting in the drive-thru. Just look at math problems. All right, greatest common factor and least common multiple. Those terms people get confused all the time. GCF and LCM. In this case, we're looking for the greatest common factor. A factor is something that multiplies by something else to give us that number. A multiple is that number times 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5 that gives us a bunch of different numbers. So the GCF, I'm going to list the factors of 36, list the factors of 18, and find the biggest one. The factors of 36 are going to be 1 times 36, 2 times 18, 3 times 12, 4 doesn't work, 5 doesn't work, and 6 times 6. These are all factors of 36. Factors of 18 are 1 times 18, 2 times 9, and 3 times 6. So if we look at the things that are common, they share 1, they share 2, they share 3, they share 6, and they share 18. Which one is the biggest? Because they're looking for the greatest. The biggest is 18, the end. Now, least common multiple, if I said, what is the least common multiple of 5 and 12, I would list out the multiples of 5. So I wouldn't list out the factors. The multiples of 5 are 5 times 1, 5 times 2, 5 times 3, 5 times 4, 5 times 5, 5 times 6, 5 times 7, 5 times 8, 5 times 9, 5 times 10, 11, and 12. Then I would list out the multiples of 12. 12 times 1, 12 times 2, 12 times 3, 12 times 4, 12 times 5. And I'm looking for the smallest number here. So the smallest number would be 60. Pretty simple problem. All right, we have time for one more. A theme park survey found that the average age of a park attendee was 42 years, and the standard deviation was 5 years. Which of the following is the best interpretation of this result? So I'm going to hold off on reading these answer choices. This is definitely on the GK, interpreting standard deviation. You don't have to know how to find the standard deviation. You just have to be able to interpret it. A very quick statistics lesson on standard deviation. Standard deviation is the spread of data. And so if I'm looking at the normal bell curve of data, where this is my mean or my average, a standard deviation says that from that average, I can have 1 standard deviation away, 2 standard deviations away, 3 standard deviations away, and so on. And I know that about 34% of my data is going to fall within 1 standard deviation of my average. And then about like 12 to 13, I'm not remembering it completely correctly, 12 to 13-ish% falls in here, and like 2% falls here. So if I know that my average is 42, then one standard deviation away would be plus 5. So 42 plus 5 would be 47. 42 minus 5 would be 37. And I'm going to keep adding 5 and subtracting 5 to find each of those standard deviations. 57 and 27. So, which of the following is the best interpretation of this result? The oldest park attendee was 62. Well, I could add 5 to 57 and get 62. But when we're looking at standard deviation, we know that we can't do oldest and youngest. They didn't give us the data. They just gave us where the data could be. So I can't know what the oldest or what the youngest or what the mediumest person was. I can only say where the data fell. Most of the park was younger than 32. Well, that would be anybody from here over. Is that most? No, that's only 2%. So that's out. Most were younger than 47. Younger than 47 would be from here over. Is that most? Yes, that is greater than 50% for sure. 34 plus 34 plus 12 plus 2. So that is going to be our answer. Most were older than 47. Well, older than 47 would be from here over, and that's only going to be about 15-16%. So C is going to be the correct answer. Why is it 22 birds and 26 cats? It's 26 birds and 22 cats. I'm not sure what your question is. So that said, I hope that you learned something tonight. I hope to see you next Wednesday for birthday week round 2, because it will be one day after my birthday. So why not celebrate my birthday for 2 weeks in a row? And if you have anything that you want me to go over next week, please let me know in the comments. It can be a topic or it can be a specific question like Mona gave us. So please let me know in the comments, and I will see you all next week. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. A for a quick message, and then I will hopefully see you next week.
All right, so wasn't that an amazing session? Now, I know, depending on what exam you have to take, you're like, man, that was great, but she didn't address everything I needed. She focused on all different questions, and I just need elementary, or I just need middle school, I just need high school. Don't worry. Since you're still with us, I've got a special surprise for you. If you use the coupon code, all capital letters, SINK35, that's SINK 35, that will take off 35% off any of our prep courses on our website at the Learning Liaisons. Doesn't have to just be math. It could be anything that you need that we offer. And this is going to be an ongoing deal for you guys who attend these live sessions, because these are great. I'm sure Amy opened your eyes to some new concepts, some new ways to tackle problems, building that confidence. But this is just a smidget of your exam, the concepts on your test. So if you want the comprehensive view with the practice with Amy, with the practice test, with the lessons and the content review, we've got your back on our video boot camps, which all of them feature Amy Sink, your math specialist. So if you want to take advantage of that, the code is SINK35. You can use that at checkout on the learningliaisons.com website. And all that information is on our website as well, and on the bottom of the screen in this video. So we are here to help you. Once again, always remember, it's when you pass, not if you pass. Thank you for joining us again today. And hopefully we'll see you next week too. Talk to you soon.